This is Bobby Okereke, inside linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, and you are tuning into the Blue Stable Podcast.
Another week, and it's another time for a Blue Stable Podcast episode, right for all of you who are coming on to the stable with us, guys. Again, if you guys want to help us grow, make sure you subscribe, comment, like down below. On whether if it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a 5-star review. It would really help us out. But again, welcome. I am, as always, let me move this out the way. That way you can see all this lusciousness. Man, I'm probably freaking hideous. But anyways, Michael Pivia, joined by me, Destin Adams, Destin Traquavion Adams. We got Rashad McGinnis, King of Colts, Mr. Hollywood, Tracy McGrady lover. Rashad, man, how you feeling today?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm happy to be here. Excited to discuss the two topics that we have discussed: our top 15 players, interior defensive linemen, and running backs, and this left tackle position that you guys have been waiting to fight over. I'm interested to see how this is going to unfold.
Destin's been waiting to fight over it, and it's really not going to be much of a fight, but I'll give him some little leash. So that some leash to pull on, you know what I mean? But Destin, first off, man, it's a pretty big week for you and your sports fandom. Indiana Pacers got the draft here tomorrow night, because this is when people are listening to this on Wednesday. How you feeling, man? Is the buzz picking up? Are you getting nervous?
Man, I'm just not all that used to caring this much about the NBA draft as a Pacer fan. We've talked about this before on the podcast. First ever top 10 pick of my lifetime. First ever top 10 pick for the Pacers since the 1980s, 1989 to be exact. I feel like it's hurting my health, man. I feel like every single day I'm looking through these stupid trade draft rumors, and my heart's doing unhealthy things, just beating fast, and every single tweet that comes out. I'm just ready for it to be over, and I'm really hoping they just don't screw it up, you know?
Hey, man, we are rooting for you. Rashad and I, Lakers and Mavericks fans, we are rooting for you. We don't have a pick, but we are rooting, obviously, for our third-tier team in the NBA, the Indiana Pacers. But this is going to be a Colts show that we're going to talk about. And, guys, we got to start off with the news that hit everybody last week. Khari Willis, starting safety for the Indianapolis Colts, is retiring from the NFL. Still on his rookie contract. He retires a really good safety in the NFL. Where do I even start, man? This actually kind of hit me a little bit, because y'all know how I feel about Khari. I've talked him up for a while now, and it hit. I remember, I mean, I'll let you guys talk. I know I didn't even hear anything about this. Like, I asked around, of course, when I saw the names, obviously, that were missing from OTAs. All I knew is that he was taking care of a personal issue. That's all I was told. I was never hinted at retirement, or it never crossed my mind. But damn it, man. I'm so sick and tired of these retirements. I'm so tired of these way too early retirements. Destin, what was your reaction? We'll go to Destin and then Rashad. What was y'all's guys' reaction to Khari Willis hanging it up and pursuing a career in ministry?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely surprising. There's been a lot of talk about the safety room this offseason, what the move for Cross meant for maybe a guy like Willis who was on a contract year. It was definitely surprising to see a guy who never got that second contract for being a later pick than the top 2 rounds where you can get some of that guaranteed money up front. For him not being able to get that second contract, that kind of hit me originally. Like this dude he's really just, life is bigger than football, you know. He's bigger than the money. He has a bigger purpose. And that was a really cool moment for me, just to kind of think about that this guy was moments away from the actual contract that would have retired him for life financially, to the point where he felt the call and he went ahead and did it. And I mean, there's a part of that where I think you have to respect it for a guy that's able and willing to do that. Could I have done that? No, but hey, good power to him, man.
Selfishly, I was mad because he literally dropped this news Wednesday morning. The story broke, and we had just recorded the pod the night before that. So it feels kind of like we're discussing something so old right now. I can't believe it's been a week already. But I was happy for him, man. Anytime you get a guy that gets to make his own decision and walk off on his own terms in such a violent and brutal sport, you can't help but support the guy. I mean, the reason just was the icing on the cake. You know, he did it for something he felt like was bigger. He had a multi-million-dollar payday on the way, and he just said, screw it, man, because his goals and his values was more important to him, something rarely seen this day and age. I can't do nothing but salute that man. I have the utmost respect for him. Shout out to him. Wish you success on your next chapter in life, Khari. You'll always be a Colt for life. And I know Michael is personally upset about this because he went to war behind Khari last week. And now look, all for nothing. Sorry, Michael.
Hey man, I was a little bit speechless for about an hour because of everything we've talked about on the field. And man, dude, I do want to talk about Khari for a little bit, man, because this guy, he's a great guy. I went back and looked at and started researching if there were like any articles from Michigan State. And I found about 3 of them that highlighted who he was in the Michigan State University, their athletics department, a leader from day one when he walked in as a freshman. There was a couple of articles that highlighted how he was just more mature beyond his years as an 18-year-old walking into Michigan State. He had leadership that you would expect from seniors, from super fifth-year seniors. He had such a great relationship with every single one of his teammates. He was one of the most respected players in the Spartans locker room. He was such an important piece. He was the most important piece on the Michigan State Spartans defense in his senior year. He was their best player on that side of the ball. He was a communicator. He was the play caller. He helped get a couple of guys who were freshmen at the time, grow them up as corners and other safeties. He just meant so much, not only to the Spartans, but also as a Colt. You saw him day one as an Indianapolis Colt. He came in, and remember, I talked about it like maybe not even a month ago, how we were watching that Titans game, week 2, so, like zone right to the Colts sideline. Derrick Henry comes, someone flies in and hammers him, puts him down. Like, who the hell is that? What safety do we have that does that? It was Khari Willis. Won the starting job his rookie year already. Was well respected, one of the most respected. Not very vocal, but he was one of the most respected players in that locker room. He helped guys. He even helped Julian Blackmon. This is a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know, but Khari Willis was one of the guys that helped Julian Blackmon, and I'm sure still helping Julian Blackmon from this ACL injury, Julian Blackmon's rookie year, and then from what he's coming through with this Achilles. He's meant a lot to Julian. One of his best friends was Kenny Moore. He's meant a lot to these guys. And I did text someone personally, and they were notified maybe a day before, and it was a couple of tears because they weren't going to have their brother on the field in that locker room. But it was like, it was just so joyful. It was joyous. They were happy for him. And I'm disappointed to see him go, leave the Colts. I mean, like Destin said, this guy was about to get a life-changing contract, whether if it was from the Colts or someone else. He was about to get a life-saving, like a life-changing contract, much money. And he walked away from it to pursue something he believes in, and he thinks that he and his life stand for. So, Khari, thank you for the time. It is not easy, like Destin and Rashad said. It's not easy to walk away from millions of dollars on the table. And hey, football is a dangerous sport. And if you're looking out for yourself, Khari, hell of a career. I'm sure you'll go down in the Michigan State Spartans Hall of Fame one day. Destin and Rashad, any other closing remarks about Khari Willis retiring early, but we're happy for him?
I mean, I'm just going through some of these safety contracts recently. trying to look at like what I think the market could have been, just to like put a number to like what he was walking away from. And I'm just looking around here. So Jimmy Ward got his contract semi recently. He's a little older than Khari was. I would say that they're in a similar tier of safety plays. Ward's a little bit higher probably, but like
yeah,
I would say that they're pretty similar. Going down the list, that's going to be the closest to compare here. Maybe Tracy Walker on the Lions, maybe. But either way, I mean, their contracts are pretty similar. Jimmy Ward's getting 9.5. Tracy Walker's getting 8 1/3. So, I mean, somewhere in that like 8.5 to 9.5 range is probably what I could have seen Khari getting. I don't think that would have been here. We kind of talked about that a little bit previously, that I think the cross move and the trade up, how they did it, kind of screamed to me that they were not going to pay him. But I do think he was good enough in the NFL that that's probably the realm of contract he could have gotten on the open market. So, I mean, and again, like this was going to be his biggest year getting paid. He was going to get a little bit over $2 million this year that last because for those who don't know, like the later picks in the draft, usually how their contracts are set up is the longer you make it on that team through that first contract, the money goes up as just kind of like a reward for making it throughout the contract. Just because the majority of day 3 picks like that, they end up not making it the entirety of that contract. So, and Willis had earned every bit of what he's made and was underpaid and he was finally going to be getting over $2 million this year. And then, as we said, going to be northing into that $8 million around range. Like that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I think he made for his career. I think he made a total of $2.5 million. So that just gives you an idea of how much money he was making per year. Probably roughly around $800K, a little over $800K, which is crazy for a player of his stature. 3-year starter, and a guy that was at times played some great football for this organization, man. And he was just a pleasure to have, man. Shout out
Khari Willis, man. I'm not sure if there's been anything about what's left on his remaining deal. If it's a classy move that the Colts do most of the time, just pay him out the rest of his contract. I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't read anything about that. I'm sure we'll get probably updates when we hit training camp. But other than that, Khari Willis, enjoy retirement, buddy. Somebody's going to get a spot on that top 15 position rankings for the safeties now. So I guess, but Khari Willis leaving
on your list, man. We're not doing
Hey, how many weeks ago was it? 2-3 weeks ago when you weren't here and Zach was on with us, Rashad? Yeah. So that was the week when we were talking about what players could be top 10 at their positions by the end of the year. And Michael went on the ledge to say that Khari Willis was going to be a top 10 at his position by the end of the year.
If I was here, I would have pushed Mike off that ledge. That same ledge he went on and said that. But look, you almost made me curse. I don't want to curse this early into the episode. Okay, so just carry on, Michael.
Yeah, right. But anyways, with Willis now leaving a starting spot open, what does this mean for the safety group? Now, I've talked about this is probably the deepest, the best overall room in the league. That takes a hit now. Julian Blackmon still working back from an Achilles. Rodney McLeod, is he the guy that steps into that starting role? Championship experience. He's the vet. He's going to want to play a lot of snaps. But then we drafted Nick Cross. Very talented safety. Probably the prototypical safety you want in this scheme. Power, speed, coverage ability. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Maybe you got to call up a certain mullet and get him back to the Colts. Bring some depth, bring some leadership.
Whoa! We have morals now. # no mullets in Indy.
# no mullets in Indy. Wow. Up north, man, you was about to make me say something out of pocket. Anyways,
Mike, don't get us canceled, Mike.
Right. So what does this mean, Rashad? I'll start with you, man. You're a lot of talent is leaving this room. So who are you looking at right now for the strong safety spot, whether if it's Rodney McLeod, Nick Cross, or maybe this is a spot where potentially maybe a Rodney Thomas can step in? I'm sure they'll explore that in training camp.
This was one of the positions, now looking at the Khari Willis move in a football sense, this was one of the places where the Colts, if the Colts were going to lose a starter, they could afford to lose a guy at, because they are deep at this position, where they were deep at this position. You could go either route. You could go the McLeod route or the Nick Cross route. The likely route I think you do explore, though, is probably having McLeod out there early, just because you don't want to throw Nick Cross into it. By Nick Cross being so raw, he's only 20 years old. He needs more experience within his system. He needs to see things. I think early on, you want to keep things real basic, real vanilla for him, so you can allow him to play fast. The more you have him processing out there is when he's going to get caught up and when he's going to give up plays and when he's going to get beat, because you don't want him thinking while he's out there. You want him just playing, reading, and reacting really quickly. And that's something McLeod's going to excel in right out the gate. I like the fact that he can play in the box or he can play over the top. I spoke about last week having both of our safeties be interchangeable. And though we're losing a great player with Khari, that was the knock that we had. We pretty much was forced into playing Khari to his strength, which was in the box, and a guy that was playing around the line of scrimmage. He was one of the best in the league at that safety position, but you couldn't really put him at center fielder. We saw when Julian Blackmon got hurt and we was forced to play Khari that way. It wasn't his strong suit. So now we got a guy like McLeod who excels in that. I think you can play him or Blackmon as the guy on the post or playing the hash, and you could put either one of those guys around the line of scrimmage and expect those guys to succeed early. But I do think maybe around mid-season toward the later half of the season, you're going to see Nick Cross take that spot, just because the talent is too undeniable to keep him down for long. He's a special physical prospect, like he's not one of those guys that come around very often physically. And if he can catch up mentally with his physical skills, he's going to be exceptional, and it's going to be hard to keep him off the field for long.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go back and just kind of look through the safeties that Gus Bradley has excelled with, like Nick Cross is just a prototype to just plug and play in that. That's why when the trade up happened and the pick happens, it just makes so much sense. There was a lot of talk already about that maybe Cross was going to be able to take that spot from Khari somewhat point in the season. And now just looking at it, I mean, it just kind of depends on what they want to do. I could see them throwing Cross maybe into that like box role early, just because it's going to take a little less preparation, a little less poised nature from Cross early on to play in the box right away. Whereas they can use McLeod's experience, they can use that vet mentality that he holds to be able to put him on the back end with Blackmon at first. But they're going to have so many different options. I mean, Blackmon and McLeod have both filled in on both sides already in their careers. McLeod in Philadelphia, obviously, and Blackmon in his short time in Indy already has played both sides. So it's just really going to be about how they want to utilize it. I think Cross is going to end up being way too dynamic to not be back on the back end. It's just about like how long he is going to take to push open that door. For me, whether it's week 1, whether it's week 8, like who knows, but I think they're going to find ways for him to be on the field either way.
I agree. I think you roll into week 1 with maybe Rodney, sorry, with Rodney McLeod. And I mean, the veteran leadership and all that, I mean, why not? Like, just give the veteran his tip of the hat. You're the week 1 starter. But again, it's really about what goes on for the 60, 65 snaps on defense, because how many snaps is Nick Cross going to get versus Rodney McLeod? I don't know. But getting away from those two, it does make me think a little bit, because after the draft, I did talk about him a little bit. And I'm looking here at Rodney Thomas II, 6'1", 196 pounds. We drafted him from Yale. He's listed on the site as a DB, and there are other guys who are specifically listed as a corner, as a safety. Rodney is listed as a DB, which basically means they don't know what they're going to do with him yet. I wonder if this opens up a spot, not a starting spot, not that spot. Does this open up a backup spot for him to try and test them out in training camp and in preseason? Because I am interested about that. I do like him a lot. Went back and watched his Yale tape a lot. I think, of course, he's incredibly raw, but development, he's got the traits already, the physical tools. He's got the hip flipping of the hips. He's got the strength, the agility, the speed. I just want to see a little bit more development there. I don't know when Khari Willis retired. It wasn't Rodney McLeod. It wasn't Nick Cross that popped in my head. It was Rodney Thomas. That's who it was. Because, again, after the draft, I did say I like him. Could this be a little special teams player development type guy? Who knows? I want to see where that goes. But in terms of, starter spot, Rodney McLeod, Nick Cross, at this point, I really don't give a damn. All right, my other son on defense left to pursue his dream. So, and by the way, he didn't take the job either, so they got it by default. Any other remarks on the safety room, Rashad and Destin?
No, I pretty much covered everything I felt about it. And just to touch on your Rodney Thomas point real quick, I think he's a long way off from actually contributing. He just screams practice squad to me. Like you said, the physical attributes are there, but it's just a long way as far as the competition he played and the experience factor. Practice squad, for sure.
Yeah, I think his better chance at making the roster is probably at corner, just because of the length and just kind of looking down the depth chart at corner right now. If he was going to make the roster, it'd be at corner. And that really he would need to show something on the special team side if he wants to make that roster for sure.
And we are moving on now. This segment is going to get good because we're going to talk about which rookies have a shot. We're dialed in on rookies here. Which rookies have a shot at legitimately starting week 1? And we're only looking at 3 players: Alec Pierce, Jalani Woods, and we are also looking at Nick Cross. Okay, those are the only 3 legitimate players that can actually win a job here. So I'm going to start, we're already on the safety room. Let's continue with it. Nick Cross. Rashad, I'll start with you, man. Nick Cross. Can he get that starting job week 1? What would it take for him? What would it take for him to get that job week 1?
Okay. It would just take for him to show real knowledge. It's a mental thing with Nick Cross, and it's going to be a mental thing for him to get on the field. If he's able to process at the elite level, like figure out alignments, route distributions, and things like that, then I think he has a chance to get on the field early. The physical capabilities is there. Like I said, he's a special type of athlete. You just don't see a guy that big, that fast, that can hit and cover as well. So I think it's going to be all mental for him. If he show in training camp that he's locked in and in preseason has a couple of good showings, I think it's possible, man. I think it's a doorway to that, because we know that Gus likes to use 3 safeties as well. So it'll definitely be an opportunity there for him. And maybe, who knows, they find a role for him. It's kind of like a rover, a guy to use in the slot as well. Sometimes it's just a guy that's pretty much a star in the defenses. I think that's a slot that he can have right out the gate if mentally he's prepared.
Yeah, for me, I think there's going to be multiple things to watch here in training camp. Blackman's recovery is going to be one that I think is important to watch. Because, God forbid there's a setback. God forbid once we're running full on with pads, he just doesn't feel 100% ready. Because, again, he shouldn't be 100% ready yet, but he's operating as if he is already. So we hit training camp, pads get put on, we're running full force. We're going to kind of see where Blackman actually is. And maybe he is 100%. Maybe this dude is just Superman. Who knows? But Blackman's recovery is one aspect that I think is going to be important here. Then the other element that's going to be working in Cross's favor is, again, like his athleticism, his ability that you see in college. Like, Gus is going to want him on the field. If he's going to be able to pick the defense quicker than expected, like, it's just going to be hard for just looking at how Gus has operated with safeties over his career. Like, I can just see that he's licking his lips at the chance to put Cross on the field. So all Cross needs to do is give him a reason.
I think, integrating Julian Blackmon into this decision was going to be my path to go down, because what Nick Cross has to do to get a starting job is just don't perform bad in training camp, because realistically, is Julian Blackmon going to be out there week 1? Probably not. So you're probably looking at Rodney McLeod and Nick Cross being your starting safeties week 1. So just to make sure you don't get jumped by anybody, just know what you're doing in training camp. Right now is the time. You see Khari Willis, you're already supposed to be at a level after OTAs. Now that Khari Willis has stepped away, you turn that up another notch. Now you're studying the same play 10 times instead of 5. You're calling Ron Miles 5 times in a day instead of 3. Like, whatever the case, however a player, whatever his agenda, whatever his plan is to get better, Nick Cross should be stepping that up times 3. So as long as he knows what he's doing, he's definitely going to be out there week 1. Probably maybe by default, because Willis and Blackmon won't be out there week 1, but that's definitely incredibly likely. All right. All eyes on Nick Cross now.
If I'm a betting man, though, I bet Julian Blackmon be out there. I just really think that.
Hey, man, he's got the heart of a warrior. He recovers. That's what that's what happens. Next up, we're going to talk about Alec Pierce. All right, drafted out of Cincinnati. What does he need to do to be a starter week 1? Well, I don't think it's really that much of a tall task. Be better than Ashton Dulin. Be better than Ashton Dulin, basically. That's clear, cut, and dry. Be better than Ashton Dulin. Destin, what you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he needs to do is have 2 working legs, 2 working hands, and a functioning brain, basically. I mean, you don't take this guy in round 2 with how this receiver room looks without making a free agent acquisition right now. And if they add another guy, like, that answer changes. But right now, looking at the roster, I just don't see a way that Pierce isn't out there as a top 3 receiver on this team. The only things I've heard from multiple people at camp is that he's flying around. He's making plays already. He's worked with the 1s. He's worked with the 2s, and he hasn't missed a beat, whether it's with Foles or Ryan. That is a good sign to me. Hearing that he's been able to succeed with Foles, he's been able to succeed with Ryan on the field, because the big thing is that sometimes when you get into camp, you'll see guys struggling with lesser quarterback play. And when you get into the real league and the real plays, the defense is trying to knock your head off. These guys in camp right now, they're trying to make plays, but no one's trying to hit Alec Pierce at 110%. So him being able to succeed with Nick Foles just kind of shows me that he may have a better chance at playing well early. So I think Alec Pierce is going to be the starter. Like, of any of the guys on the roster, he would have the highest % chance, and it's probably at like a 96 for me.
What he need to do is walk up to Chris Ballard's office and tell Chris Ballard, stay off the phone. I'm good. I got this. I got us. Frank, put your trust in me. We don't need to bring anybody in. We got what we need right here in this locker room already. He needs to go to Reggie Wayne and tell Reggie Wayne, look, man, talk to Frank. Let him know I am ready for the responsibility. I'm ready to accept the challenge, and I'm ready to take on this task and prove to this organization that I can be what y'all want me to be right out of the gate. So that's pretty much it. Because, I mean, as of right now, the way this current roster is constructed, he is the number 2 wide receiver on this roster. And I know it's sad to say, because we have a 2nd-round pick from 3 years ago that should be that, but due to the fact that he's unable to stay on the field and stay healthy, which he is now, and I'm sure he'll challenge, but he'll be either way, it'll still be a starting spot. We start 3 receivers. It'll be those 3 guys. You know, if they're all healthy, it'll without a shadow of a doubt. Ashton Dulin will be the 4th option, in my opinion. And, you know, his special teams is the reason he's here. He was forced to play last year just due to us sucking at wide receiver. So that's pretty much what it is. Alec Pierce is definitely I'm going to put it at 90, 98, 99%, something like that.
All right. And your point to Paris Campbell, Rashad, I mean, even in terms of his route tree, we still don't know what his strength is. We still don't know anything about that. So questions still reside about Paris. Obviously, we're all knocking on wood for him to be healthy. But until then, Alec Pierce is your number 2, and he is your starter right now. So next up is the tight end position. Jalani Woods, man, I love this addition a lot. So Jalani Woods, let me start this one off. So I think already he is the best pass catcher in the room. I've said that immediately after he was drafted. He's already the best pass catcher in the room. But is that enough to overtake Mo Alley Cox for the starting position? Mo Alley Cox already knows the system. He's already been here for multiple years. He's, built that chemistry a little bit more with Matt Ryan, Nick Foles. He's going to be taking on what Jack Doyle has been doing, and maybe he is a little bit more than Jack. So can he have more success than Jack did? Possibly, but also as a blocker. He is a very good blocker. And already by now, he just knows where he's going. He knows what he's doing, hopefully. I don't think that's enough, just being the best pass catcher. I don't think that's enough to beat out Mo Alley Cox, because knowing where you're going, being a very good blocker, and being able to be a decent pass catcher is enough in my eyes to give you this starting spot in this room, particularly. So I would have to say Jelani Woods, unfortunately, is not going to win this starting job. But again, I would not be surprised if he has more catches than Mo Alley Cox in 2022.
So just to get a full answer from you, and then me and Rashad can talk. So Reich's going to use 2 tight ends in pretty much like a starter capacity. So in your opinion, do you think Woods grabs that tight end 2 spot then?
Yes, he'll grab the tight end 2 spot
from day one.
Oh, I don't know. I think they still got some plans for Kylan. For a rookie, it's tough to say just from day one. I got to see, what's going from training camp to preseason to end the season. But right now, I think he'll earn it somewhere between week 4 and week 8, that number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we've talked about it. Tight end has just one of the worst track records at early success in the NFL. There's just a lot of things tight ends are asked to do, and a lot of the times when they come in, they kind of struggle to learn all that aspects early. We saw it last year. They mixed Granson in here and there, but it was hard for him to get on the field at a consistent basis. I think this year they're going to try to utilize him. I had heard that there was some drops that were going on already in training camp that are a concern there. But I had heard that he has picked up the playbook pretty nicely this upcoming year, and they like him as a person. So I really do think Granson's a guy they want to have on the field. The aspect where I think we'll kind of see Jelani Woods and Drew Ogletree, and I know Rashad's going to have a little bit more to talk about there, but Ogletree's a guy that they like, that they've seen in camp as well. And I think a lot of their early on roles are going to be in the red zone, because they love the idea of how many big bodies they're going to have. They're really going to love all these guys they have and all these options in the red zone. And we're going to have big bodies, man. We're going to throw it up. And we haven't seen that in years. So I'm not going to count that as a starter position. But I do think if he can get a consistent red zone role, that is a success for his rookie year, in my opinion.
Yeah. In this scenario, I'm only going to count 1 tight end as starting in this scenario. I'm talking 11 personnel. That's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end on the field, 1 running back, of course. So I'm going to say that's going to be Mo Alley Cox for sure. And like Dustin alluded to, you're going to see them a lot in the red zone. Ogletree and Woods, they'll be interchangeable pretty much, as far as being big body guys that like to go up in traffic and get the ball. But another time you're going to see them is in 2 tight end sets, 12 personnel. That's what you like to see. Jack Doyle and Mo Alley Cox both on the field at the same time last year. Colts run it a lot. And so you're going to need somebody to fill that Jack Doyle role as far as a blocker. And that's where I think Jalani Woods has the edge on somebody like Colin Granson. You know, it's pretty specific, a specific role and a specific time that you have Granson on the field. You know, he's not a plus blocker. He's kind of a guy, he's a willing blocker, but he's just not a guy that's going to really give you an advantage in that department. So a lot of times you're going to want to put a better blocker on the field. You have two good blockers, one on each edge, and you want to get the run game established. That's when you want to really pound the team that you feel like you can dominate in the trenches. You just throw two tight ends out there, big body guys. And Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods being on the field at the same time is a matchup problem. You know, you don't necessarily have to run the ball in those situations. You get a play action and get those big guys moving up the field. We saw that those guys, when to get the ball on time, in stride, can make plays, and can run after the catch, something that we rarely see Mo Alley Cox do last year due to Carson Wentz, quarterback. But if he's put in the right situations and gets the ball pretty early and accurate, he can make some plays with the ball in his hands. Woods showed it throughout college. So I think that'll be a plus for them. But I won't say any of the tight ends starting. I think Mo Alley Cox has that spot pretty much solidified. And I think passing situations, the first option would probably be Colin Granson.
Yeah, I look at another guy like, and obviously Drew Ogletree, and, you know, there's just a lot of rawness there, but crazy athleticism, crazy traits. But again, how much playing time is he going to get? For Mo, I do want to talk about Mo. This is a big year for him. I mean, goodness gracious, how many more years are we going to keep doing this? Mo Alley Cox. How many more years, right? But this year is the guy that I really feel good about his quarterback situation. This is the first year that I feel really good about where Mo is and how he's developed and who's going to be throwing him the football. I feel good about that. So can Mo take it up another level? And obviously Matt is going to help him take that next step. Mm-hmm. I would definitely, I'm intrigued by this because yes, I do harp on Mo's issues a lot, fumbling, drops, running the wrong routes, whatever the case may be. But he has a guy who's holding him accountable every single play, who's helping him get better every single play. Help him understand where the soft spots in the zone are. That's my bit. I think that's where Matt Ryan is going to help Mo Alley Cox excel because you already know who's going to be outside, Michael Pittman Jr. That's going to leave some soft spots in the zone as a tight end, and that's what makes Travis Kelce so great because he knows how to identify those spots. And the chemistry he has with Patrick is important too. So I am intrigued this year. For the first year out of the past 4 that fans have been clamoring about Mo Alley Cox, this is the first year that I'm actually truly engaged in what is going on with Mo Alley Cox and his development. So next is the left tackle position. All right. Rashad, let me get you first here, and then we'll go to Destin and then me. Bernard Ryman, drafted out of Central Michigan in the 3rd round. You know, he's a rookie. It's going to happen in every fan base. All the fans want to see him play. But what do you think his chances are at starting week 1?
Oh, okay. I'll keep mine brief because I know you guys are on opposite sides of the spectrum on this one. But if I had to place a percentage on it, I would give him about a 40% shot. Maybe, well, yeah, about 40. About a 40% shot. I'm going Matt Pryor with 60%. Just because of the experience factor. We saw Pryor in spot duty last year, and he was pretty good. And then I think the most important thing is Ballard giving him his word that he'd get first crack at it. And I just don't think he's going to be that terrible in training camp or in a few preseason snaps bad enough for him to lose his job or anything like that. So I think come week 1 is pretty safe bet unless something catastrophic happens and Matt Pryor just sucks or injury or something along those lines. I think he'll be pretty safely cemented in that spot, at least for week 1. That's what I'm going to say.
Ho, 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 home. I believe Bernard Ryman, apologize. And we've been corrected in the past on how to pronounce his name, Ryman. I
You're going to bat
believe,
for a guy and can't even get his name right. Come on now.
says the guy who mispronounced our own interview on air, but we don't have to go there. But Kara K. But I believe Ryman is going to come in and win the job in training camp. The reason I see this is because honestly, I think long-term Pryor's role for the Colts makes the most sense to be that swing tackle who can also play in at guard and fill in so many spots as that sixth lineman. And if you put him in at left tackle and he succeeds in any form of way, and you push away and push off the Ryman starting role, where I think Ryman's just natural talent for the position is just going to end up taking it, to where if you push that off and have to put him in later, you're going to lose Pryor in the long term anyways, and you're not going to be able to use him in this role that I think he is going to be one that can help the Colts in. We've seen the Colts lose that lineman that was so important in that sixth spot over the last few years. Joe Haeg was a big help for the Colts as that sixth lineman aspect. And that's what I feel like Pryor can be long-term for the Colts if they allow that. And I just feel like in camp, they're going to get there. And I think Pryor is a fine tackle option. Like, I don't think there is anything wrong with him as a person. And I don't think he is not necessarily going to be something that loses the job. I just think we're going to get to camp and Ryman's natural talent is going to win it out, because I just think overall he has that where Pryor does not.
Okay. So basically a lot of what I've been hearing on Twitter, this conversation is going to be different because instead of talking hypotheticals, I want to get to the meat and potatoes of everything. That's what I want to get to. Because when I keep hearing talent, Bernard, what is he better at than Matt Pryor? Because that I have yet to be told what he is better at than Matt Pryor. Because again, I'll present my side. Matt Pryor came in last year, and regardless of what people still want to hold on to of what happened in Philadelphia, he came to Indianapolis, and regardless of what spot he played at, he played very well at every single spot. And like what you just said, Destin, you think that's his best role. I'm not even going to argue that. That probably is his best role. But still, as a tackle, whether if it was the left or the right, he performed well and didn't give up much pressure. This is a guy who played some pretty good pass rushers in this league. And then I go to a guy who is a 25-year-old rookie, mind you, not 21, 25. And that's not really his fault. Came over, got into football a little bit later. Not entirely his fault. The COVID years, the super seniors, all that stuff, extra eligibility. 25 years old. But you're telling me Ryman can be the starter, Matt Pryor can be the swing. What if I told you Matt Pryor can be the starter, Ryman can be the swing? Because again, I haven't been told what is Ryman better at. I mean, like I've said so many times, if we get to camp and Ryman out straight up just beats him, okay, I just want someone who will protect Matt Ryan. That's what I want. But again, Matt Pryor has shown me more than Ryman because we go back. I can't pull it up now, but I've gone back to watch Ryman's tape. It's good, but who has he faced? Nobody. Nobody he's faced has gotten drafted. Nobody he's faced is going to get drafted. So, again, I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I want to be told what is Ryman better at than Matt Pryor.
Personally, I think the aspect of it that will end up teetering it to Ryman is in the pass game, because I do believe that we are going to have a more balanced run to pass attack this year. I think it'll be more of like a 60-40, whereas last year I think we operated in a 70-30 on an average week, and then there were obviously weeks where we operated in like a 90-10. If you go back and watch Buffalo and you go watch New England. So I think the aspect of it is that I think Ryman is going to be a better pure pass blocker. I think last year Pryor was okay in the pass game. I think where he excelled was the run game, because of how big of a body he is and that natural guard element to his game, to where when he made the switch to tackle, he was able to excel in the run game. Whereas in the pass game, I do think he was better than Eric Fisher last year, but I still think you saw him have to overcompensate off the line, with that very long jump back in Pryor's game in the pass game. And I think with the older quarterback play in Matt Ryan, who we've talked about is not immobile, but that element to me is where I'm going to want to lean towards the better pass blocker personally. And that's where I believe Ryman excels.
But my thing is now, first off, thank you for finally giving me something to work with finally, instead of just, I just see him starting week 1 because he's better. No, that's not what we do here on the Blue Stable. I hear you on that. Is he the better pass blocker? Probably. He has very light feet. He has great footwork. The technique of it all is good. But again, that goes back to my point. He's had nobody to challenge his technique, which is why I think very early on, he might get destroyed early in the league. That doesn't mean in year 2 he can build up muscle and be much better. But year 1, at his size, at his strength, I don't see him just being a better pass blocker than Matt Pryor, because he has the strength to fight those other guys. And it's not always about strength. Guys can get around you who are weaker than Matt Pryor. But again, I fear for Bernard because of how overpowered he can get. And sometimes in this league, in college, technique can overtake strength. But in the NFL, this is grown man stuff. There ain't no more 18-year-olds here anymore. He is going to get driven through. That's how I see it. How I see it. Now, we got to get to training camp first. So how does he perform against Quiddy, against Yannick, will tell us a lot, honestly, because again, I'm all ears. I want to see the best left tackle, but I can't just be told, because Ryman's better. I can't be told that. Is he better technique at left tackle? I would agree. Does he have better feet? I would agree. Technique? I would agree. Definitely. But Matt Pryor's just pure strength helps him out a lot in this scenario, where I agree with Ballard. He will get first crack at the job. Now, does that mean he'll get first crack week 1 or first week of training camp? I'll go with first week of training camp, but again, I got to see it to believe it, to believe that a guy is just going to walk into the NFL who didn't face too much competition in college for 4 years and just walk in and take a starting job. I have to see it to believe it. Personally, that's on my side.
Hey, I get it. And you're going to see it.
Hey man, I want the best guy who's going to protect my Matt Pryor, okay? Or Matt Ryan, sorry. Matt Ryan. I want the guy who protects Matt Ryan the most. So, guys, if you think otherwise about any of these rookies, let us know down in the comment section below, okay? This is the Blue Stable Podcast. Whatever thoughts you have about Khari, the safety room, any of these rookies who you think can win a starting job, let us know down in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe if you want to help us grow, ladies and gentlemen. So now it's time to continue the positional rankings, which is going to be featuring running backs and interior defense of linemen. Okay, so who wants to go first? Who wants to start it off? Who wants to start the craziness off? You know what?
If I go first for running backs, can I go last for defensive linemen?
I don't know, man. I think we're going to confuse the viewers here. You know what? How about...
You want me to just go first? I can go first.
Let's go Destin. Let's go Rashad, and then let's go me.
All right.
For running backs.
So we're going to do it similar to how we've done it every other week, I'm assuming. So we'll start from 1 and go to 15. I'll give my entire list, and you guys can roast me afterwards. I'm sure I'll have some people turn the podcast off here at 1. I'm going to go Derrick Henry at 1 still, just off of pure production and what his workload is going to look like, because I just think Tennessee is still going to ride a heavy workload on him. And if he's able to do that in a healthy manner, we only saw it 1 year so far where he wasn't able to. So I'm going to keep him at 1 until I see it again. Hey, like I said, I'm sure some people turned it off. At 2.
Before you continue, Destin, turn your phone off for the entirety of the week. Okay. Just turn your phone off.
I'll have to mute everything. But at 2, I got our boy Jonathan Taylor, last year's rushing leader, stud. I think he's the most talented running back in the NFL already, on what he's able to do at every element at the position. But because of the production element, I have to give Henry the 1 going into the year. At 3, I'm going to go Nick Chubb. When Nick Chubb's healthy, he's just so special in the pass game, in the running game, running between the tackles, kicking it outside. He does so much for that Browns team, where I have him at 3. At 4, this is going to be a little higher than I bet you guys have him, but I have Joe Mixon. I think we finally saw Joe Mixon stay at a consistent rate last year, and I think it was a big element in that offense, to the point where I trust him a little bit more, especially health-wise, over these next 4 guys that I think have enough to make it a pattern now. At 5, I have Dalvin Cook. Dalvin, when he's healthy, is just so dynamic in both elements of the game. At 6, I have Alvin Kamara for a similar reason, just because he's able to do so many things on both sides of the ball. Let's hope he doesn't get suspended for the old knocking a dude out in the bar in Vegas thing. At 7, I have Christian McCaffrey, who, when healthy, looked like a different kind of animal in the passing game than we've seen in a long time for a running back, but needs to show that he can stay healthy to be higher for me. At 8, I have Saquon Barkley for a similar reason. The dude just looked like an animal when healthy, but there's enough elements here for me to question whether or not he can stay healthy. At 9, I have one of the young bucks in the league, of Naji Harris out of Pittsburgh. I really like his game, and I think his workload's going to increase this next year. So I have him at 9 behind what should be a better offensive line. At 10, I have David Montgomery for Chicago. I like me some David Montgomery. I think he runs hard. I think he has that grit to him, into his game, and hopefully their offensive line is a little bit better, and hopefully the offense is called a little bit better this year for him. At 11, I have Josh Jacobs out of Vegas. Like his game a lot when he's out there. I think he has done a lot no matter which offensive line's out there. Injury-wise, I think he just shows up when he's there. At 12, I have Austin Eckler for the Chargers. I just think in the passing game, he offers such a big element for them. So I have Austin Eckler there at 12. At 13, I have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, again, is a guy who I think offers a ton in the passing game. Even if I think A.J. Dillon's going to end up taking the spot eventually, I think Aaron Jones is still talented. I think Devontae Adams leaving is actually going to help him.
Well, hold on. Before you continue, Rashad, we need to put his feet to the fire. You said last year A.J. Dillon was going to take Aaron Jones's job.
Well, hey, we also discussed last year, and it got nixed because we said if they both stayed healthy, and there was situations that kind of caused that to not happen.
Oh, my God.
That was a part of it. Rashad, was that not a part of it last year?
It was a part of it.
See, Rashad, Destin likes to do that. He likes to put in the little details, that way he has a backdoor out when he's proven wrong. He really wanted to come out and say outright A.J. Dillon would get it, but he had to put in the little details.
Hey, I do like A.J. Dillon's game, and I think they like him too.
But I
have Aaron Jones there at 13. At 14, I have a guy who, if he could ever get back to what he used to be and consistently, I mean, the guy's a stud. But at 14, I have Ezekiel Elliott. Dude is just so inconsistent. He's got a guy on his coattails right now, like pulling at him, because he wants this chance with Tony Pollard. And I just think there's arguments to be made for Pollard to have even a bigger role if Zeke can't step up. And at 15, I have another young buck in the league with Javonte Williams. I really like his game. I really wanted to have him higher. Melvin Gordon re-signing kind of hurt the stock for him a little bit for me on whether or not what his workload's going to look like. I do think Russ will help him in the passing game a little bit. And I like how Javonte plays. I think he runs hard. I think he hits inside the tackles well. I think he was able to bounce outside at a good rate. And I think he will be the starter, even though Gordon's back.
Okay, Rashad, I think we need to hear this once again for confirmation. Destin, you have Austin Eckler where?
I have Austin Eckler at 12.
All right. Okay. And you will not speak for the remainder of this podcast. All right. Rashad.
That is great. You have Saquon Barkley ahead of Austin Eckler?
I mean, out of a pure best running back situation, I also think Eckler, his biggest struggle is the same as staying healthy. And I just think when both are at full health, I think Barkley is better. So when I have the same questions for both, like I'm going to judge them accurately because of that. Even if I think Eckler may stay more healthy.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say you can't put it on the same scale because one is hurt way more than the other.
One's been hurt more often. I just think last year, if you look at it in a sense, like I think both like lingered very often, and I'm just really questioning if Eckler can even hold that same workload that a guy like Barkley can, like a guy like McCaffrey can, and even again, they all struggle with injuries, so they all kind of dropped a little bit for me. But when it came to them, I just kind of wanted to weigh when all of those guys are healthy that do deal with injuries, where would I put those guys? Because
where you had Saquon at? What was Saquon
at 8?
Huh.
And Eckler was at 12.
Wow.
It basically just came into the fact that I really like the young guy because the three that are ahead of Eckler for me after Barkley are Najee, Montgomery, and Jacobs.
Whoa.
I like all three of those guys. I think all three of those guys are going to be in an improved situations that they've been in recently. So that kind of helped it to there. Whereas I think Eckler isn't going to even be asked to do as much as he has in the past because of that injury situation. Also, I just think they're going to be a way pass heavier team in a sense.
But that's his strength too, though. That's one of his strengths.
I agree.
He's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, he's a top 5 receiving back in the NFL.
Like, wait, okay.
Especially workload in it.
So
I like Eckler. I do. I like Eckler. It just comes down to if I was making it my team right now and had to pick a running back, I would take those 11 guys over him.
So did you have Alvin Kamara on your list?
Yeah, he was at 6.
Yes.
Barkley's not. Spoiler alert: Barkley's not on my list at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just because he was just injured too much?
It's because he has 540 yards in the last 2 years.
Okay. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Injuries have hindered that for him. I agree. It's just I think at the end of the year we kind of saw a little bit of what Barkley can be when healthy again, and so I'm just letting that roll into this year. And I believe that offensive line is going to be improved. That was the big thing for a lot of these guys with injuries too. Like I like for these guys that are above Eckler, like I think Barkley's offensive line will look better than last year. I think Najee's offensive line is going to be significantly better than it was last year. I think Montgomery's offensive line is not going to be as good as those two guys' offensive line, but better. And I think he ran better than Eckler last year.
Yeah, I think he ran, but the gap is so far to me as far as receiving aspect is why I have Eckler over those guys. You know, none of those guys are really threats like that in the passing game. Josh Jacobs I hate him in the passing game. Like I don't like his receiving ability. Well, let's get to my list. I don't want to talk.
Right.
Number 1 is Destin. I can't believe you had Derrick Henry. What?
He chose Jonathan
Taylor. He did. It's going to be a riot on the timeline tomorrow, or maybe tonight if I decide to go up and start it. But I have Jonathan Taylor. Like you say, it's really a push between Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. What gave Jonathan Taylor the edge for me was the receiving aspect, the fact that he's a much better receiver than Derrick Henry, who rarely gives you anything in the receiving game. But let's not be fooled here. If Derrick Henry gets back to 100% as performing at the level that he was prior to his injury, he's easily can be the top back on this list. So obviously Derrick Henry's my number 2 if Jonathan Taylor's my number 1. Nick Chubb is my number 3, a guy that I think is very underrated. And if he wasn't sharing the rock with Kareem Hunt, he'd be right up here with Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, in my opinion. I think he's that talented of runner, a guy with speed and power and great vision as well. Number 4 is Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook personally as a runner, a smaller guy with a smaller frame, but still runs in between the tackles really well, has the vision, has great speed, does a lot in the receiving game, is a good screen. He catches screens, has great visions for that, sets up his blocks well. I'm a big fan of Dalvin Cook. Number 5 is Christian McCaffrey. And this is just really because he can't stay healthy, in my opinion. These last 2 years has been absolutely brutal for him. Right after it seemed like he got paid, he took a drop. He started getting injured, and the injuries started piling up, which was odd because he was extremely healthy the years before that, and it just seems like it's catching up with him right now. in that same vein, number 6 is another receiving back, Alvin Kamara. Just a guy that's talented, dual threat type of back. I don't like him as much as I like some of those other guys in between the tackles. I think he bounces everything to the outside pretty much. But in the receiving game, what he can do is not matched by many. You know, he's just a mismatch, a walking mismatch every time he's on the field. The balance, the speed. He's just an amazing running back. Number 7 is Joe Mixon. For the reasons that Destin gave, I believe he took a step this year. He is a talented back. And I think this is the first time you're seeing him not have to carry the offense as a whole. And he's seeing the lightest boxes of his life, because he's been running into 8-man fronts pretty much his whole career up until last season. And I think you got to see what he can do once you spread things out a little bit. Joe Mixon, a tough guy. I love his game. My number 8, number 8 is Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones. I'm a big Aaron Jones guy. What he can do in a run game, what he can do in a pass game. It worries me seeing him get injured, get banged up a little bit last year. I'm not sure if he can take that pounding. He doesn't really have to now that he has A.J. Dillon, a guy that's more of a bruiser, a bigger physical back. That's a guy that can take most of the punishment. You use Aaron Jones in those passing situations and get him some matchups, especially with no receivers that Green Bay has currently on their roster. Aaron Jones is going to be a big part of their receiving game if they're going to have a receiving game. My number 9 is Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is my number 9. For the reasons we talked about already, I won't even go over that. We discussed Austin Eckler already. Number 10, rounding out my top 10, is Naji Harris. Staying consistent with my theme from last week. You know, if you do it once, I got to put you on the list, but I can't put you too high because I only seen you do it one time. But Naji Harris is a guy that can easily move into my top 5, top 6 if he has another year like he just had, especially running behind that Pittsburgh O-line. Now, he got a lot of touches. He did get a lot of carries. But running behind that offensive line in Pittsburgh, he should get credit for that. And he still grinded out 1,200 yards. So my number 11 is Antonio Gibson. I know I might be higher on this guy than a lot of people, but I think he is one of the most talented backs in the NFL, a guy that when used to his strengths can be a dynamic weapon in the passing game. He's a guy that's learning how to run between the tackles because he wasn't a traditional runner coming out of college. He's a guy that's really been learning the position as these years have been going on. I think the sky's the limit. If you could just get a good offensive system, a quarterback with some weapons around him to take away some of those boxes, lighten up those boxes for him, I think he can be a real asset. I don't know if he's going to get that this year with Carson Wentz, but we'll see. My number 12 is Ezekiel Elliott. Discussed him about getting back to what he used to be. He's literally on this list for nostalgia purposes, like a guy that, because what he's shown me the last year or two, he doesn't actually deserve to be on this list. But at the top of his game, I just have trouble letting that vision go of how good he used to be, and I'm just wondering if he can get back to that. Number 13.
This man said nostalgia purpose.
I mean, I'm being honest, man, because I mean, okay, we'll talk about it. 13 is Josh Jacobs, a very underrated running back. I think he's very underrated. Doesn't get the credit he deserves. Just consistently goes out there and gets 1,000 yards, even in an offense that lacked receiving threats. You know, when Hunter Renfrow was your number 1 receiver, it's bad. Yeah, I know they have Darren Waller at tight end, but who's not a traditional blocker, by the way. So Josh Jacobs has to go out there and earn every single yard that he gets out there. I love his game. Number 14, physical guy, David Montgomery. Ran behind trash last year. Absolute trash. He literally earned every yard that he got. And I had him on my fantasy team, so I was forced to keep up with him. And he was consistently producing, man. In tough games where they was getting blown out. You know, he had to find ways to be productive. He even did some in the passing game. And a thing that doesn't get talked about much on here, he's great in pass protection. Something that's big for running backs. And a quick way for you to get on the field is blitz pickups and pass protections in general. David Montgomery exceeds in that. And my number 15 is same as Destin. I was surprised you picked that. Javonte Williams, a guy that's on the brink of being a top back in the NFL. I think he has that type of potential. He scraped 900 yards, splitting carries with Melvin Gordon as a rookie. That guy is really, really talented. And I think in a different system, well, probably this system now that Russ is entering the fold, I think that's going to do wonders for him. But Melvin Gordon coming back is kind of like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're just taking touches away from a potential playmaker. But that's my list 1 through 15.
So I'm still on the fact I never thought I'd hear this out of Rashad's mouth. He put a player in his top 15 rankings because of nostalgia.
I did, man.
That is crazy.
I mean, it definitely holds an element of why he probably ended up in mine. Because, I mean, he still even had flashes last year. Like, you can't say you watched the entire season and Zeke doesn't show that talent still. It's just overall, he can't put a consistent tape together. Because he can have runs where he just looks special and he makes defenders look silly again. And he looks like that Zeke that's jumping in the Salvation Army pot all over again. He looks like that Zeke at times, but then there are times where he's unplayable, where he's a guy that can't get through the hole. He can't find it. And Tony Pollard has to come in, and Tony Pollard does more with his touches on a less stunt. Now, the guy that you had on your list that I didn't was Gibson. I like Gibson. The reason he doesn't end up on my 15, he teetered for me last year because he's just a very inconsistent runner of the football. And then the element comes in this year of he's going to see more stacked boxes at times. And I mean, that's a crazy thing to say because his quarterback plays have sucked. Like Carson Wentz is an upgrade, but there's a sense to it where you still go back and watch games for Gibson, and because he had such an impact in the pass game, you don't see as much stacked boxes for him because that was where his element came in. Carson, as we all know, and those listening, have struggled to throw to the running back. So I'm worried that Gibson's strength and key ability to make impact plays is going to be taken away because Carson is the quarterback there. So that's kind of why he ends up not in my top 15 at all.
Makes sense. The Nyheim Hines effect.
Yeah. Other than that nostalgia, I really don't have any issues with.
That was funny because that was. I mean, I looked at the list and I'm like, why is Zeke on my goddamn list? Like
we're naming players because of nostalgia.
Crazy. I mean, it wasn't like he was your 15th. You said he was 12, right?
Yeah, he's like 12.
Yeah, I mean, nostalgia got him in there, and not just in there. He didn't squeeze in. He's in.
He didn't squeeze in.
In 6 years, Zeke's been in the league 6 years. The least amount of yards he's ever had in the season is 980. That is nuts.
That's
nuts.
He's had one hell of an offensive line.
Absolutely. And he's never averaged less than 4 yards a carry. So he's been pretty solid. It's not like he's been awful, but it's just that rookie year was so special for him, man. And he's a far cry from that rookie year. Whew.
All right. I'll just let you guys know I have a shocker on my list that none of you named.
He's going to say Nyheim Hines, and I'm going to throw this.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So number one for me is going to be Jonathan Tate.
Wait, before you start. Destin, think of all Mike's bias.
I'm trying here. I'm trying.
You will never guess it. You'll never guess it.
There's not a TCU running back to name. So like that was where my first brain thought went. He won't say any of the Texas teams. You can mark out anything there.
He's gonna say something like Damian Harris.
I want to guess. I want to put a guess out in the world before he goes in. So like, I'm gonna say
you can't cheat either and say Cordero Patterson. That's not a running back, okay?
The running back I'll say is his surprise is Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
Did he get it?
Rashad, what do you say?
Let me get my guess. I am going to go with I've been trying to think of. I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just so you know, this guy, I'm gonna make you wait. This guy is at 15.
Okay.
All right. He's at 15. So let's get on with it, guys. Who do you think is my surprise pick and my number 15 of running backs. Comment down below as you're
Pause
watching
the
this.
video. Pause the video.
Pause the video.
And comment. And
if you get it wrong, which you most likely will, you got to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. All right. So number 1 is going to be Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. I hear you guys, and I'm really not mad at whoever you put at number 1 because they're both just extremely talented. I know, taking my Titans hate away, I'm not mad at Destin putting Derrick Henry at number 1. I have zero issue with it because of how talented both of these players are. But for Jonathan Taylor, recognize what he did his rookie year. It was a bad start. Destin, you and I were talking about it on another podcast. And I just kept saying, he's just got to calm down. He keeps going. He has to have patience. And he figured it out in Detroit. I think it was week 8 of that 2020 year. No, 2020 year. Yeah, his rookie year. He figured it out. At that point in week 8, he had 200 rushing yards. And he finished the year over 1,000. Who has done that? Who has started off so poorly and ended like that? So that was year 1. Then he followed it up by being an MVP candidate, carrying his quarterback and his offense along with Michael Pittman Jr. to 1,800 yards. He is number 1. Number 2,
Mike had to include Michael Pittman in that talk somehow.
Number 2, I gotta go with Nick Chubb. Number 2, I'm gonna go with Nick Chubb because of the year. Because of the year that he had. Derrick Henry was injured. It's not Derrick Henry's fault.
Nick Chubb was injured.
Nick Chubb showed, like, did you see that Cleveland LA game? Did you see that game? That dude ran wild. He ran wild.
I'm gonna let you finish your list. That's wild.
Off of just pure talent, I think Nick Chubb, and because of obviously the unfortunate thing that happened with Derrick Henry, I'll put Nick Chubb at number 2. Number 3, I got Derrick Henry because, again, the greatness, power, speed, burst, stiff arms, production, longevity, all that good stuff. Number 4, I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook from the Minnesota Vikings. He's had some injury issues as well, and I think we're going to say a lot of that about these running backs in these lists. But Dalvin Cook, again, dude is just great, patience. He knows how to read everything. Good pass blocker as well. Got him at number 4. Number 5, this was who I was debating number 4 and 5 with, but number 5, I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. I think he is the best pass-catching running back in the league. The dude is just so talented. He lines up in the slot a lot, but he can also run the damn ball. And if you have a high pick in the fantasy leagues, you take Alvin Kamara. At number 6, this was a little bit of a decision for me, but number 6, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. Off talent, he just does it in between the tackles, outside the tackles, in the back, coming out of the backfield, catching the ball, lining up in the slot. He's got it all. Number 7, I'm going to go with Austin Eckler from the LA Chargers because of how good he is in the pass game. Austin Eckler is a big reason why Justin Herbert is going to be an MVP candidate this year. Austin Eckler is going to have a huge hand in that. And when you're doing that in the run and pass game, you got to be you have to be number 7 on this list. Number 8, I'm going to go with Aaron Jones from Green Bay. Again, he didn't lose his spot, just so you know, spoiler alert, Destin, he won't lose his spot this year. He is so good. Rashad, how many touchdowns did he have on Monday night? How many touchdowns did he have? Like 4 or 5?
Oh, man.
He had a lot. Just so you know,
he ran it up.
He ran it up. Okay, he ran it up, and he had other people wishing who had AJ Dillon on their fantasy. When is AJ Dillon gonna get a snap? Never. Okay, never. He's never gonna get a snap. Number 9, I went with Saquon Barkley because he ended the year on a good note. He reminded people of why he was highly drafted as a freaking running back. Drafting a running backs that high is still crazy to me, but
wow,
he still showed that explosion. Now, if he can maintain health, his offensive line, they added some pieces this year. Mark Lewinsky, you got Evan Neal, you added some pieces. Now, I think a big year is in store for Saquon Barkley. Number 10, I'm going to go with Joe Mixon, and I do agree with Destin.
10?
He did.
Okay.
Destin, he did have a good year, but he has been injured a lot. It's been inconsistent a lot. So for those reasons, I have him at number 10. Number 10, I have him at Joe Mixon. Number 11, I'm going with Antonio Gibson from the Washington Commanders. Antonio the Gibster. My guy from my favorite player on Washington. What's up?
The Gibster.
That's
what you called this man?
Okay. The Gibster from Memphis.
The Gibster is hilarious.
From Memphis. The guy is so good. You know, the offensive line in Washington wasn't the greatest. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest quarterback play, but they relied on him a lot. Him and J.D. McKissick, who was that change of pace, pass catching back out of the backfield. But Antonio Gibson deserves a lot of respect for what he's done so far in this league. He does great things. He battled a couple injuries last year, but he showed when he's in the game, whether he can pass the ball, run the ball, he is the complete package. And I think, again, like we saw with Jonathan Taylor, if that same workload, I do worry about the workload because of these past injuries. If what Jonathan Taylor got, if that goes on Antonio Gibson, damn, he might be done by week 8. I don't know. I really hope he doesn't. But just based off that, he is on my list at number 11. Number 12, I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs from Oakland. All right. The guy or Las Vegas. Sorry. He has showed good things. The pass catching ability, I really don't like, but hey, you can't lie. The guy can play between those tackles and he can get it done. Number 13. Now I wanted to put this guy at number 12, but because he was a rookie, I let it go. But I think this guy is in store for a huge year in 2022. That is Naji Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The guy, I think he had more forced missed tackles than Jonathan Taylor last year. The guy is a pass catching demon. He can run between the tackles. And if you really think about it, I wanted to harp on your point, Rashad, but I'll make it here. He's going to have a rookie quarterback. And what is a rookie quarterback's favorite go-to? The dump down to the running back. This is going to be a big year for Naji Harris. He might vault into the top 8 or 7 of this list, maybe even top 6. Who knows? But based off that, he's got to be on my list. At number 14, I'll join the party. We got to give David Montgomery some love, man. Like Rashad said, he earned every inch, not even yard. He earned every inch behind that damn offensive line. And now, damn, he probably gonna have to do it again because they have no receivers to throw to. So great job, Matt Eberflus. Great start. Gonna run David Montgomery into the ground. So got to give him here. Now at number 15, I might get some heat on this, but I love this running back. I think he is better. If he got the starting job in that same workload than the guy in front of him, he will be on this list. I'm going with Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys. I think his burst between the tackles is better than Ezekiel Elliott's. He can pass, he can catch the ball, I think, a little bit better than Ezekiel Elliott. If he gets this same workload than Zeke, hell, I think he's already going to have the exact same or better stats than Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. I'm not going off of nostalgia. I'm going off what just happened. Everybody was clamoring more Tony Pollard, more Tony Pollard, more Tony Pollard, because Zeke can't do it anymore. More Tony Pollard. And I am pounding the table for more Tony Pollard in Big D. I'm pounding the table for Tony Pollard, especially to get to Indianapolis at some point. So argue with your mama. That's my list.
A backup running back being in the top 15 is bold. I'm still going to have the biggest question on how Joe Mixon is that low. And the word inconsistent to get thrown at Joe Mixon is an interesting one, because I just feel like Joe Mixon has found ways to produce in awful situations and asks. Like maybe like if you own him in fantasy, it's not been the greatest thing to have because he's like had so many stacked boxes against him. But as a running back overall who's had to do so much up until this point where the passing game is where it is now, I just don't see a way Joe Mixon can be. I believe you had him at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mentioned already why Gibson wasn't on my list. Tony Pollard being at 15 is a take. It's a
Now, real quick for Joe Mixon, is this a little biased because he was in Oklahoma when you were?
I don't think so. I mean, his tenure in Oklahoma wasn't exactly
Hey, it was pretty good now.
well, I'm not talking about statistically. I'm just saying he left some questionable things off the field while he was in college. So I don't know if I'd say I have a positive bias towards him. I'm just saying as a player, since he's been in the league, Mixon's a guy who I just think has worked so hard since day one and had to be the offense in Cincinnati for so long. Whereas last year we saw, Rashad kind of mentioned it, when the boxes kind of opened up, we just see how talented that kid is. And I know that I have him higher than most are going to have him at 4, but I don't know how you can have him not in your top 7 personally.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. But I got pretty much the same gripes as you. The Joe Mixon, Tony Pollard, I think it's hilarious. Not gonna kill you about it because the few touches he did have last year, he looked good. He looked really good actually. And you said people was pounding the table for Tony Pollard. You're correct. But you ever have like that shiny new toy that you think is the greatest toy in the world? Because it's new and you just got it. You know how long you play with that toy?
I don't know. He's been in Dallas, I think 3 years.
Has it been 3 years?
But he's been like
not really that new.
For 2 now.
Right. He hasn't really been getting a lot of touches up until I think year before last was his first year really getting. I think he had over 100 touches that year, and this year the workload definitely picked up.
I really believe if he got Zeke's workload, we would see a star in Dallas and Tony Pollard personally.
It's possible, man. Maybe that chance happens this year. You know, we'll see. He definitely should get more opportunities. I do agree with that, and he's better in the passing game for sure. I mean, I don't even think that's a debate, but you just got to see him be an every down running back.
All right. Well, guys, if you have any questions, concerns about any of our lists, put them down in the comment section below. Let's get to the interior defensive line. Destin, how about we start with you?
You want to go last, right?
Oh, he want to go last? Okay.
I can go. It doesn't matter. I can go. It's whatever.
Okay. Destin Adams, the floor is yours.
All right. I'm sure number 1's going to be the same for everybody. So Aaron Donald, we could have probably just started with that, like already penciled into the list. Aaron Donald
could have been a top 14.
Yeah, we could have made a top 14 list where the 1 was already in. But Aaron Donald at 1. I think the next 3 names I could see in any order. I'm going to go off my personal preference because of what I've seen.
Can I guess who your 3 is?
Yeah.
Is it Cam Hayward, DeForest Buckner, and Chris Jones?
Those are the 3. Yeah.
Wow.
I think those 3 are the ones that I think are interchangeable in whatever order. But I'm gonna go off of just like looking at them and what they've had to be with them as well, and then what we see. I'm gonna go to DeForest Buckner at 2. I think what Buck offers on both the run game and pass game is just incredible. And then you add in the elements that he's just not had any edge rushers to take presence off of him. Like I'm not seeing Cameron Hayward and Chris Jones take triple teams, which is unheard of. Like you see Aaron Donald get that, but you'll see DeForest Buckner get that these last couple of years because his most productive edge rusher has been Al-Quadin Muhammad. And like that's not like, we take shots at that guy all the time. Like I'm not trying to like just drive that into the ground, but like that is just a crazy stat to me to share. Like I think Buck is going to have the best edge room he's had by far this year, and I think it's going to help him really shine. I think he's the second best guy to Aaron Donald. At 3, I have Cameron Hayward. Dude has been so productive for so long, is a Hall of Famer. Gotta be at 3 for me. At 4, I have Chris Jones, again, just super productive out there in KC on what has not been a super talented defensive line, but has had better edge presence than the Colts recently. And I think that element is kind of what drives that down from Buck for me. But those 3, again, whatever order. Then I got some young guys coming in the list here, 5 through 7. At 5, I got Jeffrey Simmons out of Tennessee. At 6, I have Vita Vea out of Tampa. And at 7, I have Jonathan Allen. It's a really solid young group of guys at this position right now. Like I like all 3 of those young guys. At 8, I got a guy who's in the middle of in the age realm of things. I have Grady Jarrett out of Atlanta. At 9, I have Leonard Williams, who has played a little bit of interior, a little bit on the outside. He's mostly an interior guy, though. I really like his game. At 10, I have Kenny Clark, really, really nice run stopper there in Green Bay. At 11, I have an older guy who's had a drop off, but I think he's still very talented in Fletcher Cox. At 11. At 12, this is one of my guys in the league, and I don't know if he'll be on your guys' top 15, but I really love what he does. He was in Houston for a while, now in Cincinnati. DJ Reader. I have DJ Reader at 12. I think he's a really, really productive run stopper. I think he adds a little element to the pass game, but just so dynamic in the run game. At 13, I have another younger guy in Christian Wilkins. I think last year we kind of saw him take that next step to being a super productive pro. So I think he could be a guy that even moves up this list even more this year. At 14, I have the newly signed Tampa Bay Buck, Akeem Hicks, who was in Chicago, just a very productive guy for multiple years. And I feel like he still has enough in the tank where I can keep him at 14. And at 15, another older guy back in Baltimore for another year, but his production just is not, I can't keep him out of my top 15, however old he is, and Calais Campbell. Dude is a monster on the inside. I have him at 15, no matter if he's 37.
Okay. I'm actually kind of speechless at how very similar our lists are. Rashad, is his very similar to yours?
Destin has one player that I don't have on my list. Literally, that's how close our list is. And I think I saw
a face, Michael, in the middle there on somebody. Was it Jonathan Allen that you weren't a fan of how high he was?
No. That was my reaction to how similar our list.
Oh, okay.
That was my reaction.
Christian Wilkins is the guy I don't have on my list. I totally understand why he is on your list. He took a massive step this past year, but he started trending, a little bit the year before, but he took a big step this past year. So I definitely get why he's on the list.
Okay. Okay. Rashad, I'll have you go last. I'll go ahead and go second. I don't know what y'all's reaction is gonna be to one of these guys that I have on this list.
Oh God,
I'm not gonna have a guess game, but let's just go ahead and start it off. Number 1, we already know who that is. Number 1, Aaron Donald, so I can be on the record. Number 2, DeForest Buckner. Again, what has he done with what help? Has been no help. Kwity Paye was a rookie. He's still been getting triple, double teams and still creating pressure. He can line up outside and still create pressure, beat tackles. Number 3, Cameron Hayward. Oh, my gosh. An immovable object. So good. Number 4, Chris Jones from the Chiefs. Me personally, this was a fight between 4 and 5, but I'll have Chris Jones here. I think he did step it up this year for Kansas City on the defense because, boy, did they need it because their defense absolutely sucks. But he was what they needed in the pass rush realm of things. Number 5, I'm going to go with Jeffrey Simmons. Even though he's a Titan, I still love his game. I really loved him coming out of the draft. If it wasn't for that knee injury, he would have been a top 5 pick, in my opinion. It had him slide all the way down to, what was it, like number 21, I think it was, for the Titans. He slid all the way down there, and he was just so penetrating as a player. Even now, even for the Colts, we had trouble stopping him. He got 3 sacks in a playoff game. Even though it was against the Bengals, he got 3 sacks in a playoff game. That's crazy. Now, number 6 is going to be Jonathan Allen. My guy, Jonathan Allen in Washington. Former Alabama Crimson Tide. So good. So good. He's really one of the more underrated defensive tackles in the league, probably because he plays in Washington. Chase Young is stealing headline. Well, not really stealing, but
that whole defensive line
is phenomenal. Okay. But Jonathan Allen creates so much havoc in the middle of the line. He creates so much. He's such a good run stopper, but he can go get the quarterback as well. I just love this. Me personally, I love Jonathan Allen more than Jeffrey Simmons, but talent-wise, I do think Jeffrey Simmons is higher on my board than Jonathan Allen. Number 7, I'm going to go with Vita Vea. This dude has been, in my opinion, the anchor to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. This guy stops the run. And, of course, when we played them this past year, the whole week, can you run the ball on the Buccaneers? Can you run the ball on the Buccaneers? Vita Vea said no. He said no. He was not getting moved. Instead, he was moving our offensive linemen. So he's not much of a pass rusher, but what he does in the middle of that championship defense is important to note, and he's young. Number 8 is going to be Kenny Clark for me. Not many times do you see a nose tackle being able to not just stop the run, but also rush the passer. Kenny Clark does that in Green Bay. He's got to get the nod for me at number 8. Number 9, I'm actually going to go with Leonard Williams here. Kind of a forgotten name, but for you, Rashad, fight on, USC Trojan. I got to put him here at number 9 because even though he plays in New York, not a lot of people watch them because of, they don't really have a quarterback, so nothing really to watch. He still does some good things on that defensive line. He's still gaining all the attention, of course, but now, Rashad, your boy Azeez Ojulari, he's arrived on the scene. He's going to provide some help, and I think this will be a good year for Leonard Williams. Number 10 is going to be Grady Jarrett for me from Atlanta because even though he's on a very, very bad defense, he still gets a lot of attention. He's still able to do some really good things in terms of rushing the passer. And this is a guy who was a free agent a few years ago. I was pounding the table for him because I knew the type of player he could be, and he is. He's got to be on my list at number 10. Number 11, I'm going to go with the vet, man, Fletcher Cox. He's been doing it a long time. Even at, 33 years old, he's still rushing the passer. He's still stopping the ball, stopping the run. And at some point, I just haven't seen a fall off yet to where I have to take him out of the top 15. Haven't seen that yet. So Fletcher Cox, you got to be on my list at number 11. Number 12, DJ Reader was a big part of the Cincinnati Bengals defense. He was the main guy up there in the middle. I know he was sharing it with Larry Ogunjobi, who just got signed earlier today. DJ Reader has been good for a while. It's just, keeping it consistent. And what he did in Cincinnati to help get them to the Super Bowl was great. Good force in the middle of the line. Number 13, Rashad, I'm not sure if you're going to like this or not, but I'm going to go with David Onyemata from the New Orleans Saints. I got to give him some love here because he does play with Cam Hayward, but I really like what I've seen. I've watched a couple.
Cameron Jordan, sorry.
Yeah, Cameron Jordan. I've watched a couple Saints game. I see a guy pop off my screen. I'm like, who the heck is that? Is that Davenport? No, that's not Davenport. Oh, that's David Onyemata coming up the middle. Dude can be really good. He can pop off any moment. I think for New Orleans, Dennis Allen obviously becoming the head coach. What are they going to ask more of him? Because I think with 2 guys on the outside, like Jordan, like Davenport, I want to see him take advantage of more one-on-ones, 1v1s. I want to see him take a little bit more advantage of that. But in terms of talent, man, I really like what I've seen from him. Maybe I'm forgetting a defensive tackle. Maybe I haven't watched another defensive tackle, but I really like what I've seen from this guy from New Orleans. Number 14, I've got to go. I'm going to give some love to another Eagle, Javon Hargrave. I think, as a solid vet, he's done some good things. Obviously was in Pittsburgh, came to Philadelphia and was a force along with Fletcher Cox for that Philadelphia defense to help them get to the playoffs. What him and Fletcher Cox were able to do was stop the run, obviously, but they were also to be durable was the biggest thing. And the fact that you can do that at those ages really means a lot to me. At number 15, got to go with another young buck who, struggled a little bit here because he really doesn't have much help. His teammate got injured in the offseason. I'm going to go with Quinn Williams from the New York Jets. Carl Lawson was supposed to be a real good help to help free him up a little bit, take some attention off him. Unfortunately, he got injured, so Quinn Williams was left to still garner all the attention from the offensive line. But this is a guy, if he can get more help, he could possibly be in the top 10, not just the top 10, 15, the top 10.
I liked him in 2020. He was trending upwards, but he really struggled last year. I think he took a step backwards. But like you say, it was nothing on that defensive line for him. But I'm really interested to see how he plays in that Robert Saleh, defense. I'm interested to see what's exactly his role and what they're going to ask him to do in that system to see if he can take that next step, though.
So, yeah, so just real quick thoughts on Mike's list, but Hargraves was at 16 for me, like right on the edge of getting into my top 15. I really like what his game looked like in Pittsburgh. I think he continued that in Philadelphia. And then Williams, I like Rashad said, I think 2020 it looked like a year where he had built something to build on. And I feel like he's only moved backwards now. The edge room has not been much of a presence to kind of help there. But he just hasn't had that physical presence that I think they expected from taking him in that top. I want to say he was taken at 3, but it was top 5 for sure when he was drafted. I do feel like he's underperformed a little bit in that aspect to why he wasn't in my top 15.
Yeah, man. Your list wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, bro. Your list is not as bad as I thought.
Other than the one name that you said was going to be the shocker, and I just was wowed that he was in there. But that's your call.
Rashad, what you got for us, man?
Oh, I definitely got a homer pick at 15. By homer, I don't mean a Colts pick either. You'll see when I get there. But
no Grover Stewart love.
No Grover. Sorry, Grover. Number 1's Aaron Donald. Self-explanatory. I think we all had the same 2 through 4. I went with Chris Jones at 2, DeForest Buckner at 3, Cameron Hayward at 4. Mostly because Chris Jones just gives you a little more juice as far as pass rush in the pass rush department than DeForest. But I think that's unfair to even say because they was asked to do 2 totally different things. I think this year will be a more accurate depiction of that because we'll see Buckner getting up the field a bit more and rushing the passer a bit more with a lot of help on the defensive line as well. So I went with 2 Chris Jones, 3 DeForest Buckner, 4 Cameron Hayward. I feel the same about him as I feel about the other 2. All of those guys are elite tier guys. I have them in a separate tier than the rest of these guys that's on this list. Number 5 is Jeffrey Simmons. That's pretty much been the same for everybody. Number 6 is a guy that I'm higher on than everybody else. He's on you guys' list, but you guys don't have him that high. And that is Kenny Clark. I think he has the potential to be a star. I think him along with Jeffrey Simmons is 2 guys that's really on that brink of entering that next tier, along with one other guy that I'm about to get to in a second. So Kenny Clark was my number 6. Grady Jarrett, my number 7, just been a model of consistency for a long period of time, whether good defensive line, bad defensive line. He's haven't had a consistent edge presence since Vic Beasley. We know how many years ago that was. Number 8 is Jonathan Allen. That's another young guy that I feel like can enter that elite tier as well if he keep going along this trajectory. Number 9 is Vita Vea. I love Vita Vea's game. The only reason he's not as high as the other guys because he doesn't offer as much upside as a pass rusher. But as far as stopping a run, it gets no better. You know, he's a mountain in there. He's the immovable object. So 10, I have DJ Reader, a guy that a lot of people probably didn't expect to be that high, but I saw him up close and personal for two times a year for a couple of years. And that guy is a really talented guy, extremely big man, but gives you some juice in the pass rush department, but it's just a early down run stopper is the exact name for what he does on a consistent basis. Number 11, Leonard Williams. He's a USC Trojan. I don't need to say anymore. Number 12 is Akeem Hicks, a guy that I think is going to be an underrated signing. He waited till late in the process to sign. I think he's going to make a major impact on that defensive line. They're going to wreck. They're going to wreck stuff out there. Number 13 is the old man who was cut by his team and then re-signed with the same team, Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox has just been a staple on these type of lists for the last decade. You know, he's a guy that's super talented, pass rusher, run stuffer. He can do it all. And the same thing with my number 14 guy, and that's Calais Campbell, just a defensive stalwart for many, many years. I don't even know how old he is. He's probably 36, 35, somewhere in that range. He's just been a great, great player for a long time. That body type, that length that he has just allows him to just stuff the run. My number 15, total homer pick. I'm biased. It's a guy I saw a lot of. It's Sebastian Joseph Day.
Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Seabass, I think is a guy who's just scratching the surface on his potential. I think you would have really saw him have a breakout year had he not had the injury last season. I was glad to see him get a Super Bowl. But guess what? He's going to have an important role with on the Chargers defense, a Chargers defense that absolutely could not stop the run to save their life. So they went and spent a lot of assets to beef up that interior defensive line, added Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa on the other side. That defensive line is going to wreck things. And I think he's going to be a focal point of that. He's going to give you some juice as a pass rusher. He's a dominant run stopper. One of those old traditional throwback noses, man, that doesn't mind getting his nose dirty. I love Seabass. So that's my list.
Man, that's good. When you were leading up to 15, I was just like, who is this guy that he's homering? And then right when you got to 15, it hit me. I'm just like, Sebastian Joseph Day.
Yeah, man, I had to put Seabass on there, man. Seabass works his ass off. Such a great guy, man.
See, I would love to say, I don't know. Sebastian Joseph Day was with Aaron Donald. Is he going to be able to produce? But he's going to a team where on the edges he's got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa now.
That's the same thing they said about my brother. Kenny Coach, he was with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, and now he's with Aaron Donald. Is he really a good coach? So,
right.
His pocket says he's a good coach. That's all you got to say. But I mean, when it comes to Sebastian Joseph Day and the Chargers, I mean, can the Chargers be worse at stopping the run than last year? Because it was awful. It was a big reason why that talented team wasn't in the playoffs even. Like you have to have some sort of ability to stop the run, because the biggest thing is when a team can run all over you, they take the life out of you. They take the life out of a defense that has talent on it. Like that defense has talent, but they were made to look mediocre, and they weren't messing around this offseason. As we saw, they're going all in on the rookie contract quarterback route. And Sebastian Joseph Day was an excellent move for them. One of the best, if not the best, run stopper that was on the free agency market for them to be able to go grab, and they go do that. Also adding to the pass rush department. I don't hate him being in the top 15 until I see him have to be the top interior guy on his team, which we will see that this year. It's hard for me to include him there just because every other guy that I have on my list is their top guy in the interior.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was the biggest reason why he's not there for me.
I was honestly thinking Greg Gaines, but I'm just like, wait, someone else was there, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that guy's better.
I like Greg Gaines too. I think he's gonna fill in that Seabass role pretty well.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it whatsoever.
That's some good lists, guys. Wasn't nothing pretty outlandish out of all of our lists. We pretty much have most of the same people actually. So wasn't a lot to fight about. I'm proud of you.
Really wasn't. I'm proud of you guys as well, man. I'm proud of you. I thought somebody may have wanted to please the fans and put Grover Stewart in there, but
maybe in a cook-off. But
man, if I was using this episode to please the fans, I wouldn't have started out with Derrick Henry at 1 on the running back list. So
yeah, you pissed everybody off pretty early. They probably didn't even make it to this part of the show.
They're not here. They're not even here. They didn't see our interior line lists.
Oh my goodness, man. Hey, rumor has it Grover can make some barbecue. I'm not sure if it's Texas barbecue, but he can make some barbecue. So other than that, guys, it has been a fun show. It's been a lengthy show. So again, thank you for, riding it out with us. Thank you for staying here. I do wish everybody who was a father this past weekend a happy late Father's Day, Mr. Rashad McGinnis, Mr. Destin Adams. I do appreciate every single one of you guys and what you do as fathers. So happy late Father's Day.
Man, Mike cares.
Mike does. Hashtag Mike cares.
Hashtag Mike cares. Well, all right. That was not the hashtag I was envisioning in the summer of 2022, but we're here, right? So other than that, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to like this video, give it a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe. We are on the road to 1K. We see a couple coming in, but there's still a lot of you that keep peeking in without hitting that button. So help us out. hit that button for, if not for me, you know, if can I get a birthday subscribe? I just turned 24. Can Rashad get a happy Father's Day subscribe? Can Destin? Well, no one cares about Destin. Can me and Rashad get those subscribers in? All right. Destin had a father. He was a father. This was his first Father's Day. Can he get a subscription going for the Blue Stable? So other than that, guys, you want to check out more articles, make sure they're always down in the description below. Check out the website. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter going out every single week. And you can also check in that newsletter what articles are coming in the week and what is going to be talked about in the later show instead of having to wait till Wednesday to see it drop. What are we going to talk about? No, you get to figure out 4 days prior. So without further ado, he is Destin Adams. He is Rashad Mickey Mouse Disneyland McGinnis, and I am Michael Pevia. Destin, good luck Thursday. I love you. All of you Pacer fans, best of luck. Hopefully someone is stupid enough to take that contract of Malcolm Brogdon. Best of luck, guys. And once again, you are listening to the Blue Stable Podcast.